And I think that football, particularly, it would be very interesting to apply our models to. Because
In some cases, that cash flow cycle, arguably, there's more than half of it that we miss.
not special at all. These people aren't magical, they're just muggles.
Muggles.
That's not necessarily for the structured, sensible approach. It's not necessarily for the fresh eyes. It is because it's because of the people things in the room.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Rest is Lean, a podcast about things to do with lean, anything to do with lean, strategy, approach, good things, bad things, mere things. And I'm joined here with my friends Alan Lothian. So
Hello,
Alan Lothian, and
hello, Alan
John
Lothian.
D.
John D, expert in mere things by.
I thought you said
hello.
I thought you said expert in meth. Then I thought you said
That's a separate podcast.
Yeah, John is our crack correspondent. He'll give an update shortly. And welcome to all of you out there. I'd just like to thank you all because we're now in 70 countries and 470 cities. So apologies for crucifying all of these. Bonjour, hola, auf Wiedersehen, mahaba, sin ciao, private, epala, and salam, and all of the other languages that I could also have done damage to. But thank you all for listening. John, what's the native language in Lincolnshire?
Yellow belly.
Okay.
Yellow belly, spoken with a good side order of Brummie because we're all from Birmingham, it seems.
Okay. Right then. So, gents, what's been happening? Have you been busy?
Yes. I've been
that's a lie, John.
oh, well,
We know what you've really been up to.
Very
the
busy
past few
with
weeks.
is organising my own retirement, so that's rather interesting. But also had quite a few really interesting discussions and activities lately. So helping out a client with problem solving. It was an 8D that they had to do because they're supplying some components to a Formula One team, and
Nice.
they had some issues with supply, so they had to do an 8D. Very rewarding to get invited in, and that happens more often than I ever thought it would. These guys know how to do problem solving in 8Ds, but what they find is it's quite useful to bring in an outside facilitator,
Yeah.
particularly when there might be vested interests or,
Yeah.
people that are a little bit protective of what they've done. It's just easier to have somebody else say, "What do you think?"
It is. So that's not necessarily for the structured, sensible approach. It's not necessarily for the fresh eyes. It is because it's because of the people things in the room.
Yeah, but that's quite nice and interesting and very rewarding to be asked to be involved in. And chatting with a guy who's just getting into what we do, and has been hired by another consultancy outfit, and his background is in special forces training. So
Nice.
that was really, really interesting. But he's an educator. He's a lean guy through and through.
He can't tell you too much; he'd have to kill you. Is that what
Yeah, well, he wears a balaclava helmet and is only photographed in silhouette. So there were some really interesting discussions with new friends in the lean community. Hi, Brian.
Good man. And John, before we cast across to Alan to ask the same question, maybe in an episode or two, because you are winding down to a life on your sofa in your underpants, can we? Can you? How do you feel about preparing some reflections of a career and giving us some bullet points, some things that have occurred to you, and in a future episode?
My learnings.
Yeah.
I would say my list of regrets, but I have none.
Okay.
But
Good.
that become apparent. But yeah, I'm not dead yet, by the way, boys and girls out there. And I'm still carrying on. But yeah, life is changing.
Yeah,
John, there's life in the old dog yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Plenty.
hybrid retired, aren't you? So you're
Yes.
working as well. Yeah,
Working as well, just it's not necessarily a requirement.
A
good
great
man.
place to be, young
Yeah.
Good
chap.
place to
Great
be.
place to play.
And
Fair play to you.
Alan,
You've earned it.
speaking of good places to be, where have you been? What have you been up to?
Oof. Okay. Well, yeah, it's been a quite good couple of weeks actually. So, construction project, really fascinating, quite challenging for me. And it's not many of these I've done. We've got very long cycle times to watch, and we're talking days as opposed
Mm.
to minutes, seconds, or hours.
Mm.
So that's quite interesting. Obviously, we're still doing the site consolidation project for some fantastic businesses between the UK and our Dutch cousins, and then we're doing some aerospace work in the medtech space.
Now, gents, I had a question for you, so we can start there if you like, and then
Yeah.
we can move on to whatever you want. We're pattern recognition creatures as human beings,
Mm.
Mhm.
and the part of the reason people bring us in is because they know that we have patterns from lots of different places, and so we can offer a smorgasbord of solutions and things we've seen before
Hmm.
that may help them. You could boil it down and say the only good thing about a consultant is that they've been all over the show, and it's like getting access to a library of other places.
Hmm.
Um, Now, here's the thing. I believe we're limited by the Gembas we've been to. And because of all of our biases, we have to be careful not to suggest solutions just because we've seen something similar. So I'm trying at the moment to think about what is my gap that my knowledge has been constrained by the types of Gembas I've been to. So I've been automotive, aerospace, chemicals, plastic. I've been to most of them. I
Hmm.
haven't walked nuclear, and that's if sector specific Gembas is what you're after. I've been to startups, I've been to turnarounds, I've worked on mature greenfield, brownfield. Uh, so the question is, what Gembas haven't you been to that you would like to go to expand your knowledge?
Ooh, nice. Bear
That's
in mind, I was going to say, bear in mind, we've been to probably arguably more Gembas than your average Joe would have been to.
oh yeah.
Oh, Christ, yeah,
So,
hundreds.
so straight off the bat, I would say the vast majority of mine have been manufacturing product spaces
Yeah,
and project management. Okay. I would love to do more transactional services.
yeah. And
Yeah.
what do you mean by that back office from
Yeah. Back
inquiry
office,
to purchase order?
exactly right. So, in terms we talk about the cash cycle, it generally seems to be the production or the operating bit, as opposed to, in some cases, that cash flow cycle, arguably, there's more than half of it that we miss,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or shall we say, not necessarily miss, or don't necessarily get exposed to. So, I'd like to do a little
And
bit more of that.
and why is that, Al? Why does that appeal to you?
Just to grow development, as you said before.
Yeah.
There's only so many samples that you can go from. So the more exposure you get to more samples, the greater sample size you've got. So you've got more things in your armory to think about and apply the model that we've spoken about, and offer potential solutions of what might help them. So
Hmm.
mm, that'll be me.
Good answer.
Mm.
Mm. Very good. Me, I got a couple. One that is a real nag in my head, but I don't know what I'd do if I was put there. And that is, I am not a footballing sort of guy. It'd be really interesting to be dropped into a major football team as the lean slash um, business strategy leadership
Yeah.
coach and advisor. And I've got to admit, that's the thing that would not only interest me most, but phase me most. And I'll tell you why, and it's pure prejudice and based on my lack of knowledge. On the news, very often you'll hear, oh, Mr. Fibonacci has just been sacked as coach of normally doing really well FC because they've had a run of so many I was going to say fights. This is how much of a footballer they've had a run of so many matches without winning. And I go, as this amateur looking in, what they sacked him for? They lost that match because them 11 didn't run fast enough, kick the ball in the right direction, etc. And that bloke has got nothing to do with it. Now there's
Yeah.
an indication of my lack of knowledge.
Except,
However,
John, he creates a management system a bit.
yes,
Go on.
but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where is the connection between the KPI of goals in nets and what they do? And I think that football, particularly, it would be very interesting to apply our models to. There's definitely going to be stuff around problem solving.
Yeah.
There's definitely going to be stuff about Hoshinkanri, vision, mission, passion, all the rest of it. There's a lot of good stuff to be put in place in terms of management psychology, teamwork, etc. 5S, yeah, I'm sure all that sort of stuff works. Seven wastes, definitely to keep costs down. But it's that ultimate connection between we're getting rid of Bert. Bert's the manager, the coach, the
Yeah.
trainer, because they didn't score enough goals. Did Bert not score enough goals? No. Somebody else. I just think the whole thing would be a fascinating dynamic, and it's an area that a complete and utter mystery to me.
Interesting answer, that, John. Interesting
Mm.
answer. Um, there is, I've not worked in elite sports either, but I've read a lot of elite sports, whether it's about the All
Mm.
Blacks or the England rugby team or the Team Sky cycling team and Dave Brailsford's aggregation of marginal gains.
Yes.
All that stuff is Kaizen. So there seems to be quite a lot of Kaizen thinking in there.
Yeah.
I think probably because at elite level, everybody is so good, the marginal gains count.
Mm.
And we're all looking to translate elite sports into normal business life. But um, if you're 5 stone overweight and you're looking to do the aggregation of marginal gain stuff at elite football level, if you're a pub team, well, there are some more basic things you could do first. It's interesting, but that would be a fascinating Gemba, John. Good shout.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm just thinking about what you said there, John. I If you take a typical manufacturing company, for example, right? The similarities, I would say, are the players are the assets. They're the most important thing to that club. That
Yeah.
is the inventory. Okay.
Mm.
The manager or the head coach is generally, I would say, equates to the ops manager, the site manager, or the COO.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Not the MD, because obviously that would be equivalent to, say, the chairman, for example, or
Mm.
director of football or things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're basically saying is that the managers get sacked or relieved of their duties or
Yes.
leave by mutual consent or whatever
Yes.
they're called, are normally the ops director or something like that, or the ops manager. They're the
Yeah.
ones that are going because effectively they've not utilized their tactics to harness the value
Yeah.
of the inventory
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah.
All right. So loads of similarities, if
Yeah.
you think of it that way. I think one key difference is the way football, particularly elite football, say the Premier League, for example, terms it where the way it measures the success or failure of a particular person. And a really, really good example of that is how managers or head coaches, their remuneration and their contracts. The big difference for them is, and I can't think of any other role anywhere in any other industry where their contracts are paid for failure. 99.9% of all managers' contracts will have a clause whereby if they're relieved of their duties,
Yeah.
they get
Yeah.
paid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And in some cases, quite substantial amounts. It's, in some
I
cases, it's the
think
full
I think
amount of
there
the
might
contract.
be parallels with things like I don't know the head of the water board or head of big
At those very, very senior level ones where
utilities type
there's a
things.
severance package or that
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, exactly.
But
But the
yeah,
principle is think about the behavior that drives.
yes.
Because if you think about if I'm going into that game as how many ops directors or COOs do
Mm.
you know have a contract set up like that? None. If you don't do your job effectively, you're gone.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the about the that would be the biggest thing I would argue is the thing to get out there is the behavioural differences. You could be you've seen so many people at things in the news of late. Ange Postecoglou, who else we got? Well, take Nottingham Forest this season. They've gone through about 4 managers in about as many
Mm.
months.
Hmm.
Okay, the amount of money they've got rid of or they've spent
Yeah.
on managers, and that each of those managers have pocketed. I think Postecoglou was only in the role for 39 days or something like that.
So again,
I,
how do you mess up if one of the key metrics of a football team is scoring goals?
Hmm.
How do you connect the guy who never touches the ball
Hmm.
because
with that metric?
Because
we
he's
we
directing the orchestra.
yeah, we're comparing apples and pears here. A factory doesn't change its SOPs every week, yeah.
No.
Or a factory that there is a level of standardized work that you want to be in a factory. You want a high level of standardized work followed, yeah. You don't want creative prima donnas who will go off piste and do their own thing because it might end up well, but most of the time some shit will get sent or someone will get hurt.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whereas in football, not only do they have to set up a team, the opposition changes every week. The
Yeah.
conditions on the football pitch change every week. So they have to have the ability to bring in mercurial players who are paid 11.5 million pounds
Mhm.
because they don't follow the standard,
Yeah.
because they have a gift that means that in rugby terms they can play heads up rugby and just find the gaps in front of them, or
Yeah.
in football terms they're a Messi who somehow peripherally seems to see space that nobody else can and can astral travel across the pitch
Hmm.
and see where the gap is. So it's I don't think it's easy to manage a situation where you have both a standard, which is this is the coaching plan, this is our setup of the team for this week, and I want you to execute that. And by the way, while you're doing that and following that standard, don't follow that standard.
Yeah.
I want you to play what you see in front of you. And the team is different you're playing against this week with a different set of
Yeah.
weaknesses. And so when it's right, ignore the standard.
And you don't want the opposition to know what you're going to do anyway. So
But that's down to your tactics, isn't it? You have the
But
strategy of the football club, what they're trying
yeah.
to achieve. The manager or the coach is responsible for deploying the necessary tactics to meet the
yeah,
strategy. Yeah, you
yeah,
think
but
about it.
but in a factory, you don't change your tactics frequently.
Hmm.
Um, but maybe not in the
Not
same
the
time frame.
fundamentals of it,
But
yeah.
you are having to change. I mean, businesses you see so many businesses say one of the ways of being resilient is being able to adapt and change, yeah, and
Yeah.
be agile.
Yeah,
Okay, it's just for me. The way I just see it is it's a different level of agility. If you think about the players, if you take the ability the players as being the key assets of that business,
yeah,
the head coach is fundamentally the conductor of the orchestra, and he's got to make them. They've got to change the notes. They've got to play those things in a different way to create the sound, the music that appeals to what the owners fundamentally want. That's constantly changing, and if that doesn't
and
work,
wins trophies.
and wins trophies ultimately, yeah. And again, that's a different thing in terms of football. And most elite sport, I would argue, you see it probably more so in football, just because of the amount of money that's around
Yeah,
is, it's not necessarily just winning a trophy. It's now just being
yeah,
in sixth in the league is
yeah, yeah,
acceptable
yeah.
because of the amount of reward that's gained from that.
And also we don't play ugly here. That's not our style. We you know
Mhm.
You
we
want to
play
play a
nice, but
certain way. Exactly.
yeah.
That's the
But
yeah.
Al,
Mhm.
but Al, on the football thing, there is something mad about sacking the coach when the players aren't executing the plan.
Mhm.
However, if the plan is flawed, then the coach has to take
Mhm.
account for that. I I think there are the coach, the director of football there, and whoever's running the club, that you put the systems in place that means that you can recruit the right players, grow the right players through the academy, blood them at the right time, like you blood the next team leader, and you can keep them healthy with the right kind of training,
Yeah.
intensity, interval, nutrition, and diet. But fundamentally, in a factory, you don't you don't experience regularly. Your best two operators. You can't have them for 8 weeks.
Hmm.
So do you know what I mean? Sure,
Hmm.
people get ill and go off, but injury is a common cause of downtime in the assets in elite
Yeah.
sport.
Hmm.
And so I think people are paid the big bucks to be able to mitigate that and also react to it. Yeah.
Because going back to your point, Russ, you've got a lot of people, they're all individuals, all after their own individual wants and needs. But up to that head coach or that manager is about trying to turn those individual assets into a cohesive team. And that isn't, yes, the nutrition, the physicality of it all, absolutely. But a lot of it is mental.
I
You
think
see
I think you've hit on something there,
so
Ralph.
many egos that you've got
Yeah.
to try and bring together to harness the power of each individual, but make them a team.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so difficult.
A club has 60 players, say, and each of the five right wingers think that they're the best in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's
Yeah.
where John was leading to. I think that's why
Yeah.
you were so interested in it, John, is because you're
I
thinking it
think
more from the people
it's
aspect, the mental aspect, as opposed
it's
to the.
very there's parallels in anything if you want to look for them, but
Mm,
it's very different. I always tell people if you want to know if lean's going to work in your business, because as we know, you're special. You keep telling
mhm,
me you're different. Um, does your process follow the process model? So you
mhm,
got inputs, man, machine, material, method. You apply the process and it spits a product which is measurable in terms of QCD.
mhm,
And then you find the weakest of those elements and you apply a tool. And what you do with the tools is you change one of the inputs.
mhm.
And rad. And if your model fits that, you can apply lean. However, I always caveat it with, because there'll be a smart aleck in the room. So what about? Um, if the nature of the business could be expressed in the terms artistic. So if you're a one-man band and you paint Jackson Pollock things, there's nothing we're going to do with lean that is going to have an impact on how much money you make unless you making more paintings faster is
Yeah.
your answer. There's so
I
much going on there that is just about how you think, your
yeah.
creativity, the
I,
personality. And I think that football might be as close as you get to a non-one man band sport where there's a huge creative element to it.
there is John, but I think I disagree with you,
Mm,
and I'll tell you why. So I've recently done some work in a business where we are trying to unbottleneck design, flow design better through, so that stuff hits a workshop on a more regular cadence. Yeah.
mm,
Years ago, I did I did a piece of work with JCB across all of their design, all their designers because they couldn't recruit designers. They were like hen's teeth. They were working balls out, and there were 300 of them across the group, and it was a real bottleneck. And our success in that came from identifying if you're a designer, let's start from the presupposition that not everything you're doing right now is the magic. Okay. Your 8.5, 10, 12 hours you're spending today isn't all magic. There
no.
is magic in there. That's the magic. Let's break down what you're doing and identify magic and non-magic. We could call that value added, non-value added. Um, and let's work out the bits that either that's a bit of a ball ache for you. Why are you having to do that? Or somebody else could do that to prepare the area for you to deploy your beautiful artistic skills
Yeah,
so that you spend more time deploying the creative magic
yeah,
rather than it's a bit like a creative SMED.
I was just thinking you're describing setup improvement, really.
You are so that you can spend more time doing the actual magic, unless a part of the ritual for you to be able to deploy the magic is laying your brushes out and getting
Yeah,
your area ready. And so you have to be sensitive to that.
yeah.
Mhm.
But the presupposition behind, I'm not sure you can use lean on creative stuff, is that everything that a creative does is creative, and I don't agree with that.
Mm.
Yeah. And also, I was going to say there, Russ, if you take the artist, say a painting or a sculpture, where I would suggest that when the sculptor or the artist is creating the picture or the sculpture,
Yeah,
I don't think they necessarily understand the true value of what that sculpture or painting at the time of when they are creating it. So take a Banksy, for example. All
mm.
right. When he or she maybe created the first one, they didn't realize how much of a phenomenon they were going to become. The value of
Mhm.
what they are creating. That actually comes from the market. There's a
Yeah, yeah,
perceived value that's
Mm,
rocketed. So
yeah.
it's about you don't they're doing it for probably initially for their own self-belief
yeah,
mechanism, yeah, for their own value add as
yeah.
opposed to anybody else. And then all of a sudden there becomes a market, and then you've got to change your strategy or choose to change your strategy or not
Yeah.
to suit the market drivers. If you go back to football, actually at the end of the day, I just see huge amounts of correlation. I really,
Mm,
you mentioned PDCA. They do PDCA in literally every single facet
yeah.
of
Yeah.
football
Yeah.
Again,
Data
maybe
analytics
I'm
and
to the
very
player,
strategy.
wrong.
match the
Yeah,
player, the individual. They all have their own individual training programs that get
yeah.
adjusted based on how they've been performing. There's so much science, data, information that's used.
I
Good example is Moneyball. Do you remember Moneyball, the film
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill? Is it Jonah
yeah.
Hill? And how where they started using data analytics in American
Mm,
football, and
mm.
then that is prevalent
Baseball, yeah,
throughout all football,
Yeah.
baseball. Sorry, forgive me. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry, is prevalent throughout you know all sport nowadays.
Yeah,
But
my
but
my lack of understanding of football is probably the reason that I deploy the
mm,
idea of
yeah.
a big, because I see it as a business with all the structures that we should be good at.
Mhm.
Um, that's why I would like to be doing the Gemba walk
Yeah, it's a
and
it's a great call.
understanding
It is.
within that is because I feel it's probably the limits of my understanding of how my tools can be deployed at the moment. I
Mhm.
may go in and go, it's all exactly the same. They're not special at all. These people aren't magical. They're just muggles.
Us
Um,
muggles.
I,
Do
I,
you,
But can I close this with a quick story about how I think how I've how I've how I shape my transactional work around creative design work, because I've been doing quite a bit of design work. Not me design work, I'm rubbish.
Mhm.
Help supporting designers. Have we talked about Atul Gawande and the Checklist Manifesto?
No.
that
Atul
sounds like a
Gawande is
Dr. Zeus book.
Atul Gawande is an American surgeon, yeah, and he worked in the developing world on surgery to try to stop people dying during surgery in the developing world, and they
Right.
they generally died for a number of reasons. One was infection, blood loss, unsafe anesthesia, and then the unknown was the fourth. And so he came up with a simple checklist. There are two types of checklists: plan, do, confirm. Simple checklist that was used in field hospitals by Médecins Sans Frontières, etc., to stop people dying in surgery, and it worked. Okay, you follow this checklist, and less people will die. He then tried to translate it back to American hospitals, and got rejected hard because surgeons said, "Nope, don't need it. I've been to school for a long time. I've been doing this for years. I don't need a piece of paper
Mhm.
to tell me what to do." And he tried to frame it and reframe it and reframe it. Couldn't get it. Eventually, he managed to sell it as look. Some of you gifted people are still leaving swabs and scalpels in people, and that's unfortunate. Or you're lopping off the wrong leg. Maybe we should look at that. So, how about we give you a checklist to free you of all the boring admin stuff, the counting of things, the checking of this, checking of that, to allow you to fully deploy your incredible surgery skills without clogging your mind up. That is some way to get creatives to release the stuff that doesn't help them be more creative.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Just before
you're reframing the non-value added
Yeah.
into the things that hold you back from deploying the God-given talent that we're all looking forward to seeing.
That we need.
The
We all
degree of
need,
blowing
James.
smoke, but it's what's necessary to frame it for those individuals so that they can understand the value to them.
Yeah. Gents, can we wrap it up there?
Absolutely.
Let's.
Go for it.
Didn't
see that coming. I have to say, I didn't see the path of that podcast going that way, my friends. But there you go. Happy days.
Well,
All I know that's going to happen on these is going to be 3 random blokes on a screen. I have no idea what we're going to talk about anytime we get together.
one day we should prepare, and that might overcome the poor
Stop there,
production
Russ.
values.
He's talking stupid again.
Nah, no preparation here.
I did write down the email address if people want to write in, but I think I've lost it. So Al, what's the email address if people want to get in touch and tell us how rubbish we are?
My Amazon delivery driver's just fucked off with my new desk that was coming.com. But you can cut that bit out if you want, John. It's
No,
anyone who is interested is therestIslean@gmail.com.
Thank you very much. And gents, as ever, a lively debate and thoroughly enjoyable. And we hope you enjoy it at home. If you do, let us know the bits you enjoy. If you don't, even more important, let us know what you do want us to bunny about.
Mm-hmm. We might ignore you, but it's interesting to know.
See you next time.
See you, folks.
Yeah,
Bye.
take care, guys. Be good.